Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another exciting episode of your Daily Top 7 at 7. I am your host, Virtual Kane, and today is Wednesday, the 28th of June, 2017. You may be wondering what the purpose of this show is. It is to allow you to find out what is happening in the world without having to listen to a bunch of other news. So, very quickly, this is the Daily Top 7 at 7, where we get together all of the most important stories that you probably should know, or that you might have missed, because you didn't know. Alright guys, let's go ahead and start off. China has a brand new Type 055 battleship. So it's a destroyer. It's a destroyer class Type 55. They believe it is the first of its kind from China. They had a Type 52B, I think. But anyhow, the funny thing about this story is that while they tell you that they've got a brand new ship, they don't even give you the name of the ship. They did mention that there was another ship that was being commissioned currently, but it was another 52B, and they gave you the name of that ship. The Shining. With a just think instead of an SH it's an X. I think that's the sh sound. Anyhow, so that's what's happening in that part of China. Excuse me, I've just had some coffee and it's all right. So there has been a landslide in the Sichuan province. I guess that's a Shuan. My Chinese pronunciation is really terrible, so if anybody knows any Chinese and would like to give me some pointers, that would be awesome. But anyhow, there's a little town that got buried, and none of the reporters are allowed to actually enter the town. This is new because in the past they've been able to do all sorts of stuff during the 2008 landslide, or earthquake, I'm sorry, in the Sichuan province. The reporter said they were able to go anywhere, talk to anybody and figure out, what the real story is here. Unfortunately, when they showed up, they were given a bunch of press releases and said, this is what you need to print, and then sent on their way. So, on one hand, I can respect the need to curb what is being produced to a certain extent. Now, what I mean by that is, it seems like these measures aren't necessarily aimed at clandestine activity, if you will. What it seems to me is that the stuff that they're allowing them to print, or asking them to print rather, is human pieces, like this is the kind of food that we're feeding the refugees here, and these are the kinds of equipment that is being used to clean stuff up, and blah blah blah. Yes, human interest stories. And I think the reason they want to do this is because they are seeing kind of this lawlessness here in America, where we have kind of gotten away from real journalism and have gotten into conjecturism, I guess is the best way to put it. We don't actually write facts, we write opinions. And that is the biggest difference between now and then. So, we will see how this turns out. Like I said, I'm not endorsing the end of free speech. I'm just saying, tact is going to be a new art form here. It's going to be something that we have to learn completely over again from scratch. So, we'll see how that turns out. Alright, looks like the Muslim-held, I'm sorry, the towns that are being held by the Brotherhood of ISIS, they are, every time they push, every time the Philippines push through another town and get rid of them, they find a lot of mutilated bodies. So right here they're saying that there were 5 civilians that were beheaded. And they sort of correlate with reports that have been released of villagers being shot in the head, and also beheaded, telling a message to the Philippine government, if you don't stop the airstrikes, they're going to cut my head off, and then they, actually do cut their head off right then. Which is see, this is kind of a tainted story here, because the problem is that while the Philippines are saying, that they have found these dismembered people, the Philippine president Duterte is not very well respected as a humanitarian person himself. What that means is that when he came to visit Trump earlier this year, he was not well received. People don't like him. They think he's pretty evil, pretty horrible, does a lot of mean stuff. But here's the thing. When this report was being checked by Reuters, they discovered, well, I can't say they discovered. They were told by one of the volunteers there, who was a Muslim himself, that there was no proof that the bodies were decapitated. But the other people report, decapitations, severed limbs, like the bodies were just hacked to pieces. So I'm not sure if this guy is saying that they were hacked to death after they were killed, and that's why they can't be considered beheaded. But it really seems to me like this guy was trying to paint a prettier picture of the Muslim treatment of these civilians. These civilians who they will either arm and send into other villages to raid them and take all their money and stuff. They will either turn them into de facto soldiers, they will kill them, or they will sell them into sex slavery. And we're not talking about just girls here being sent into slavery. Like most of the guys who are not too old also get sent off. So, and certainly the young men as well. So if you can't carry a gun, you can still be profitable to them through your body. So it is really difficult to know where to come down on this side, other than to say both sides need to just stop killing people first and foremost. So I can't really endorse Duterte, but I really can't endorse the report that the bodies weren't beheaded, because there's literally videos showing them being beheaded and shot in the back of the head, and endless reports. So take that with a grain of salt, and there's some thoughts. The Philippines, man, who knew? So if you've been living in a cave for the last few weeks, you may not have known that a tower in London, Grenfell Tower, pictured here, went up in flames. Apparently the contractors who were given the job of sprucing up the building used basically the cheapest sort of cladding that they could find, which was highly flammable. The reason for this, they were gentrifying the entire area with bunch of nice luxury condos, and Grenfell Tower, pictured here, is low-income housing. It's the ghetto. Well, you can't have a ghetto in the nice part of town, so they hired people to come clean it up, to bring it into the future. Did they check the fire alarms? Nah. Did they check the sprinkler systems? Nah. Did they install an emergency exit for anybody not on the 24th floor? Nah, why would you do that? They just got the cheapest looking stuff they could and slapped it up on the side of the building, and that's why 80 people are dead now. So, whenever you start thinking about cutting corners, think about, the fact that there are 600 businesses involved in trying to find out who is to blame for this, and also how to fix it. But there you go. Don't cut corners. Hong Kong protesters arrested for democracy protest ahead of Xi's visit. All right, so this fella here, his name is Wong, Trevor Wong, Joshua Wong. My bad. So Josh here, he has been anglicized, I guess you could say. There is a celebration on July the 1st of Britain's. Excuse me. I'm a little phlegmy this morning. There's a lot of cotton from the cottonwood in the air, so it really gets to me. Anyhow, there is a celebration on July the 1st celebrating Britain passing Hong Kong over to China. They've got statues up. It's a big to-do. There's a lot of Chinese, what do you call them? Not just visitors, but tourists. You know, you have tourists. Why did I space that word? Anyhow, you got these Chinese visitors, and then you see this kid here with his group of people setting up signs and flyers and banners and shouting into a megaphone. Well, there is a lot of problems with Hong Kong not liking China's communist policy. Hong Kong would like to consider themselves to be a democratic city, and they want to keep it that way. So when they found out that that she was coming, the I guess you can call her the Empress of China, if you will. Yeah, they just decided to have this big old protest saying, you know, we don't want you. We want you to, you know, give us our democracy and free our homeboy, you know, that you locked up for speaking his mind about democracy. So, more information to follow on that. We'll see how things turn out. I don't really expect any problems for the visit on July the 1st. Looks like anybody who's down to raise a rabble already did. So, good job, Josh. I hope you don't rot in jail forever, man. That would suck. Alright, North Korea calls for the execution of South Korea's ex-leader over an assassination plot. Well, last week Japan claimed that former President Park was part of a group of organizers working on assassinating Kim Jong. So it looks like she's already been kicked out. Okay, she got impeached due to a completely different scandal involving Sony, I believe, and she's in jail. She's in detention, lockup. So Kim Jong is like, I want you to bring her over here. And then when they said that when South Korea said they wouldn't do that, he said, okay, well, it doesn't matter if it's on our soil or abroad. There's a standing order that she needs to be executed, so do it. And that's pretty much all we know of that for now, but we will keep you informed. All right. And in our last story, the Islamic State has turned on the dissenters in Raqqa. So these people pictured here are part of what you would call an ISIS guest house. So anytime one of their soldiers dies and leaves a widow and children, they wind up kind of getting grouped into a house with 9 other women and 20 other children, and they're all put in charge of by one man called an emir, and this guy is he's the king of the castle, and he gets to decide who remarries these women and whatnot. So 3 of them decided, well, things are getting a little rough, and they took off. And finally, when they got somewhere, they're like, dude, they are turning on each other. They're sending spies into each other's guest homes and other places, and they're trying to ensnare people into bad-mouthing ISIS and then killing them on the spot. So that's why they said that they wanted to get out. They were kind of upset that their husbands got killed in the line of duty, and they're like, well, there's no reason for us to be here. If we're here, then we're going to get blamed for our husbands not fighting hard enough, and they're going to come down on us. So, time to go. Speaking of time to go, it is that time. We've been here for a little while. We've given you some news, and I hope it is news that you can use. Stay safe out there. Stay kind. Stay understanding. and have plenty of patience, because you are going to need that in the days to come. And please, don't kill each other. Alright guys, this has been your Daily Top 7 at 7. I am your host, Virtual Kane, and I will see you tomorrow.